Well, it's Thursday, May 19th, 2016. This is Real in the Field Goals with your hosts, Kenneth Arthur and Danny Kelly of fieldgoals.com, and our guest today, Spike Friedman of The Stranger. And we're just sitting here. It is, like I said, May 19th, and if you're not aware, 5/19/16 is now known as the dead zone of NFL news, where nothing ever will happen or has happened, and it's just the draft is over. Some sort of camps and practices perhaps are going on. Not a lot of real news coming out of there unless you play for the Jaguars, I guess. But there's just not a whole lot to talk about. We are going to go over some Seahawks news. We're going to chat about it, and we're going to play a couple games and try and see how whether Danny or Spike know their Hawks a little bit better. And that's this week, and we're probably like 15 weeks or something shy of week 1 of the NFL season as the Seahawks go to play the Miami Dolphins. Danny, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm actually kind of bored. It's like a weird feeling. Like you said, there's literally nothing going on, and typically in my day, I'll have way too much stuff to cover, I think, so you can't really get it all, but today it's like, man, there's just nothing. But that's fine. I think it's kind of the slow part of the off season. Get to kind of recharge your batteries a little bit. So, I'm doing pretty well.
As in the case of a Jalen Ramsey, or a player that I can't think of a recent example, but a player getting off, some news off of the field. Not typically a time when you want to be in the news.
Right.
If it's May. Spike, you don't specifically have to worry so much about what's going on in the NFL because you're right about the Mariners as well. Why don't you just sort of give us the Spike Friedman Mariners update?
Mariners are good. They're competent and good, and there's nothing that can stop them from being a good and competent baseball team except for a legacy of being anything but, stretching back approximately 15 years.
But if anything, that legacy could change due to the shakeup up top, right?
I think so. I'm loving the Dipoto ride. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I realize I've never said it out loud before, so this is exciting. I'm loving new ownership, local guys. I'm not going to slander the name of Howard Lincoln too much on this podcast because other people have done it before me, and there's nothing.
You're a Nintendo maniac.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got amiibos. I've got an amiibo of Mario that I just carry in my pocket all the time, just to let people know I'm for real.
Spike, if there was, obviously, not every Seahawks fan is a Mariners fan, and it's not necessarily everyone's going to overlap. I think all three of us are fans of both teams, but if someone out there is listening to this because they're a Seahawks fan and they're in Seattle, what would be your elevator pitch to them as far as why finally the Mariners are worth paying attention to this summer?
I would say it starts with the pitching. I'd say that it's baseball's such a tough sell. I'm at my dad's house right now, and his new wife is Thai, and I've tried to explain baseball to her. And it
Wait, is she Ty Cobb?
She's literally Ty Cobb, and I explained it. She's like, please stop mansplaining baseball to me. I'm Ty Cobb. I was really good at it. And so it goes back and forth like that for a while. No, it's just baseball's a tough stuff if you're not into it, but this team has great pitching and just competence all over the field. Like, they're not going to fail you in the tragic Mariners ways you've been failed in the past. So if you have any interest in seeing baseball played well with a couple of stars and a lot of just good baseball guys, like, to me, this team is summed up by Chrissy and Netta, where I'm like, yes, he's good at his job, and he's catching, and he hits it sometimes. It's great. That's my sell. That's my sell on the Mariners is, like, they hit it sometimes. It's great.
I definitely would just encourage people to do what I do, Turn on your Yahoo Sports app that notifies you when the game is over and then just tells you the score. And then now I'm following the Mariners. I'm a huge fan because every day I get a notification of what the score was of a game that I'm never going to watch. But it's good to see them on top, and hopefully Felix Hernandez can get his first ever trip to the playoffs, and there's good things. Switching back to the Seattle Seahawks for whatever we can, how it's not easy to do at this time of year, but I am seeing that Doug Baldwin lands at number 72 on the NFL's top 100 list. If you had asked me, 4 or 5 weeks left to go in the end of last season, I would have said Doug Baldwin couldn't even get close to the top 100. And then, of course, he finishes with the NFL lead, 14 touchdowns. Danny, would you say that that 72 is a fair and righteous place for Doug Baldwin on this list?
I think it doesn't sound terribly inaccurate. I think
it's pretty. Let's just for anyone that sometimes it's hard to really grasp context. There's about 2,500 players in the NFL, so to be number 72, seems to me like that's like being in the that's like the 96th percentile. There's not very many players better than you at that point.
And I think that's fair because he literally did lead the NFL in touchdown catches. That's something you can't really ignore. And I think the NFL Top 100 is always kind of reactive. If you go back the last couple of years, you see guys on it that kind of, did really well like towards the end of the season or in the playoffs, and like were a big part of like their team towards the second half of the year. And it's kind of just one of those things. It's like a recency bias. So I totally see why he's on there, and it's not. To me, it's like not surprising at all. It's about right. I think he's not like up there with Earl Thomas or Richard Sherman or even Russell Wilson or any of those guys in terms of the importance to the team or like top player actually on his team. But I think he's a really good player, and you can't really ignore the fact that he did lead the NFL in touchdown catches. I think that's one of the most important stats, so you really can't ignore it.
Speaking of things we can't ignore, there's a plane going over Spike's head right now.
It was a weird
by the way,
Spike,
you failed to mention that right now you were on the set of Wayne's World 1, sitting on the top of your car waiting at the airport planes to fly over you.
Yeah, I am on the set of Wayne's World 1, not to be confused with the set of Wayne's World 2, which I am not on the set of. It was a really old-timey military plane, and I have no idea where it was going.
Spike, what are your thoughts on Doug Baldwin? Because typically, for someone to be, he's not your typical number one receiver, though there is always room, for a guy like that. He's 20. He was 27 last year. He'll be 28 in the upcoming season. There's enough room there to say for him to grow into a Steve Smith type. That's not your big, burly Calvin Johnson or what have you, number one receiver. Do you think that he can fit in and say, I'm as good as these guys, or did he just have a really good half of one season?
I think Danny's right that it's a reactive list. He had a really great half a season. He was at his absolute, projected physical peak. If you're healthy, 27, 28 is where you're going to play your best football. And I think he's probably got another year or two of that sort of extreme level of production. At a potential level, he could put up another year this coming year like he did last year. If you were to ask me what the odds are on him staying in the NFL top 100, I'd say they're kind of low because I think he would have to replicate the numbers he put up last year in order to do that, given that his physical skills aren't, Julio Jones or AJ Green. But that said, it's a fair assessment of what he did last year. He's also, awesome. I love Doug Baldwin. I love his personality. I love what he brings to the team in terms of tenacity. And I think his skill set, unlike Steve Smith, unlike New York Giants Steve Smith and like Carolina Panthers Steve Smith, I think he's going to age into being a productive yet non-superstar player and continue to put up, good years like the years he had put up in the past going forward for a long time, potentially, if he stays healthy.
It's a good mix. This is a good chance for us to mix in our first trivia question of the day, and I'll keep score as we go along. But since we're talking about Seahawks receivers, I'm going to ask you guys a question. You guys can have the same answer. I've got tiebreakers, so you can have the same answer. So order doesn't really matter at this point. Who holds the Seahawks single-season receiving yardage record? And we'll start with you, Danny.
Single season receiving yards record.
And we're going off the honor system. Everyone's got the internet, but if you're cheating at this fucking podcast trivia game,
I would like to preface all this by like, for a Seahawks blogger, I have the worst knowledge of Seahawks history ever, so probably gonna suck at this. I'm gonna just go ahead and go with the obvious one, Steve Largent.
Spike, your answer?
That was where I was gonna go.
You can go with it.
But I kind of want to do something weird. I kind of want to throw a weird one and go with Daryl Jackson.
That was actually who I was also thinking of.
So Danny gets a point. It's Steve Largent with 1,287 yards in 1985. No Seahawks receiver has gotten 1,300 or more yards. Only one Seahawks receiver has gotten more than 1,200 yards. Only one Seahawks receiver besides Steve Largent has gotten 1,200 yards in a season. Spike, can you name him?
Can I name the only? No, I don't. I mean, I guess Daryl Jackson. Doug Baldwin didn't end up that high last year. I don't know. I'm going to stick with Jackson.
Danny?
Joey Galloway?
Fair question. Fair responses. Corin Robinson.
That's probably not. I wouldn't have guessed that. But that makes sense.
Really a good thing.
It would have taken me like 40 guesses to end up with Corin Robinson. I would have guessed Joe Juravicius twice before I guessed Corin Robinson.
How about this one? Most single season franchise record for catches in a season. Danny?
Oh boy. Catches in a season. Let's go with Bobby Ingram.
Spike?
I was also going to go Bobby Ingram. So I'm going to stick with, but last time I got frisky and it burned me, so I'm going to stick with Bobby Ingram.
That is correct. You're both right. It is Bobby Ingram.
Nice.
Now, that means that the tiebreaker is how many catches did Bobby Ingram have that season? Closest, I guess without going over. Spike, you're first up this time.
121. Oh, wait, without going over? 116.
Danny?
I'll say, well, I could obviously just be a dick and say 115 here. I'm going to say 104.
You're both way off.
Less than 100?
It's 94.
Oh, my God.
I think 121, by the way, is close to the NFL record. I think it was the NFL record until like very recently.
Yeah, that's like.
And what? Bobby Ingram didn't hold that record?
No, Bobby Ingram on the 2007 Seattle Seahawks did not hold that record. So closest, we'll just give that to Danny.
Come on, we both went over.
Yeah, that's true. We did both go over.
Fair enough, but come on, guys, don't be so crazy.
Okay.
Switching gears, I'm kind of curious. Who do you guys think is going to have a better year next year, Thomas Rawls or Todd Gurley? Spike?
Oh, man. I want to say Rawls. But I feel like there are more questions around Rawls. There's the question of how much the passing game is going to take over in Seattle, though I don't think it's going to be, Drew Brees, New Orleans Saints level. You got to expect they're going to put more on Wilson's shoulders. So it's a question of a revamped offensive line. There's a question of them bringing like 37 running backs into camp, all of whom have their merits. Whereas with Gurley, the big question is like, can the Rams be like base level competent with a rookie quarterback and Jeff Fisher as their coach? But with Gurley, you've got he didn't have the per carry numbers that Rawls had, but once he got healthy, he was throwing up big games. The Rams' offensive line is in somewhat better shape, or at least somewhat more certain than the Seahawks. And their quarterback, I don't love Goff as a prospect, and I certainly don't love him as a first-day starter in the NFL. So I'm like, I want to say Rawls is going to have like better advanced stats. Like per carry numbers are going to be better, but Gurley's going to throw up more impressive overall numbers.
What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, that's a tough one because kind of to echo what Spike was saying, like I don't think the Rams are very good. And so like I mean just looking at it from like a fantasy football point of view, it's like you don't really want to go with like a team who's probably going to be behind all the time just because then they're going to be throwing it more. But that being said, the Seahawks are, a really, balanced team, and they're probably going to feed the rock to a couple different guys. I think I would say if I had to guess right now, I would say that Gurley would have better stats next year than Rawls. But I don't think Rawls is going to have a bad season. I don't know if they're going to rely on him to be as much of a workhorse as they were last year. Kind of. Last year they did sort of just run out of options other than Rawls. He did a great job, but they didn't really have anyone else there. And I think they're going to feed Precise. I think Alex Collins will get some carries. If Christian Michael makes the team, I think he'll be a factor. So yeah, I would go with Burley, who I think they'll probably lean on, or Gurley, who I think they'll probably lean on in St. Louis quite a bit.
I have the answer in front of me, and it is Thomas Rawls.
Oh.
Okay. Damn.
I got the. You can't. The numbers don't lie. I'm looking at it right now. 2016 stats. Thomas Rawls. Speaking of that, it's just interesting. Like Russell Wilson, I think people have said in the past, especially like the 2013 or 14, that he had like a bit of a fumbling issue. Maybe. In 2013 he fumbled it 12 times, and in 2014 he fumbled it 13 times. In 1989, Dave Craig of the Seahawks fumbled it 18 times. In 1990, he fumbled it 16 times. John Kitna in the 99 and 2000 fumbled it 17 times and 14 times. And it's easy. You want to throw this in there too. Russell Wilson is a running quarterback, so he fumbled it 13 times, carrying it 4 times as often as those other quarterbacks do. And it's a different ball game. But I definitely would caution against Russell Wilson having a sort of a fumbling problem. Last year he fumbled it, I think, 7 times. So pretty impressive just with what Russell Wilson is able to do. Danny, Spike, Russell Wilson in the news last week for his commencement speech, or this past weekend, for his commencement speech at Wisconsin, where he sort of talked about his departure at NC State, which is still shrouded in sort of mystery, and not a lot of people really fully understand, though it looks like. It's pretty much can be broken down as the fact that Russell Wilson wasn't willing to give up baseball. Coach Tom O'Brien wasn't willing to give his starting quarterback position to a guy who wasn't willing to give up baseball, and he just said, well, Mike Lennon's the starter, you're not here anymore. And then from there on out, sort of maybe Russell Wilson embellished some of his stories about playing baseball at NC State or what have you, and it's just sort of, I don't think that it really, if you've been following Russell Wilson, you would say that, it just doesn't come as any surprise that he would make a story like that. He's just sort of like he's not intending to do anything negative. He's really quite the opposite. He's trying to do something positive, but at the same time fabricating some shit up so that he can, because it sounds better. And he's just like, yeah, he's the type of guy that likes drama in the sense of, he likes the heroics, and he likes the end. He likes all that kind of that thing. Spike, what did you think of Russell Wilson's sort of commencement speech and his exaggerated at-bats at NC State or whatever the fuck?
Well, look, Wilson's a small quarterback, we can all agree. And so he's got to compensate for that in some way. We're all like, the three of us are all guys who are like funny, interesting guys, but that's because we're compensating for our lacking, physical level in whatever way, much as Russell Wilson is. So he's got to be hilarious up there, telling great stories. Is he leveling up his stories to get them to that next level, to get them to that, hosting a Nickelodeon award show for children level? Yeah, maybe. But do I want him doing that? If that's what it takes for a man of his stature to be a great NFL quarterback, that's fine with me. That's fine with me, and I won't hear otherwise.
Yeah, I don't think that, to me it was just, not a big deal. I understand why people are kind of mystified by it. I think there's a little bit of the legend building, so to speak, going on with Russell Wilson, but I mean, like he embellished or exaggerated his at bats thing, which is a little weird. And then he kind of embellished about the game where he hit the home run. I guess like sounds like he was maybe in the game earlier and wasn't actually pinch hitting when he hit that home run. I don't really even know because I just really don't care. Um, but I mean, it's just typical for Wilson. He kind of says some like kooky, weird shit, and I'm kind of in the same boat as Spike. I think like you know maybe he's a little bit nuts, but I think being an ultra confident guy who believes he was ordained by God to be a quarterback is not necessarily a bad thing because he's going to have a mental edge, because like he's got like this like divine confidence or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So if you want him to be a great quarterback, go ahead and let him believe that he's great, and who cares?
Yeah, like I said, mental break, mental edge, whatever. Danny, what are the most interceptions Russell Wilson has thrown in a regular season game in his career?
3?
Spike, what's your answer?
Has he thrown 3? I'm going to go with 2.
The answer is 3.
NFC Championship game in 2014.
In the playoffs against the Green Bay Packers, he threw 4.
Yeah, 4, yeah.
Oh, shit, that was 4, okay.
But this is the regular season record, or his regular season worst game. Danny gets a point, but Spike, I'm going to let you steal the point. If you can tell me what game he threw 3 interceptions in.
Oh, God, was it? Oh, man. I want to guess it was like rookie year, like before the comeback against New England, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to go with that.
Danny, he did not steal your point. Do you want to double up?
Double up. Let's see. For some reason, I'm picturing a game against the Panthers. His rookie season?
You're both right in that it is his rookie season.
Okay.
Week 4. Seahawks lose 19-13 in St. Louis. No touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Oh, that would have been a fun game.
Not one of his.
Out of my memory.
Not one of his highlights, but we're talking about a guy now 4 seasons into his career, and he's got 1 3-interception game, and that's it. It's pretty good.
That's pretty remarkable.
And that was almost 5 years ago, or 5 seasons ago, but it was almost, it was basically at the beginning of his first season, and since then, only the game against the Green Bay Packers did he really throw 4 and struggle. What did you what do you remember about that game, Danny? About his? I know that Jermaine Kearse, we blamed him for 2 of those interceptions, but it seems like a lot of times Russell Wilson's legacy will be how great he is at finishing games in the fourth quarter, and it's not entirely. I think that I've gone on record once or twice that he's better than Andrew Luck, so it's not entirely. I'm not going to put it in the same category as Luck, but it is somewhat similar in the fact that some of Russell Wilson's greatest games, like against the Atlanta Falcons, the New England Patriots, the St. Louis Rams, the Green Bay Packers, the 49ers, the game where he had 300 passing yards and 100 rushing yards in the same game against the Rams, where he played like shit for 2 or 3 quarters, and then he comes in and sort of has these unbelievable fourth quarters and comebacks, and maybe that is also part of the things where he likes to have these dramatic moments where he'll always be remembered for them. Danny, what do you remember about that Green Bay Packers game and how he played that day?
I think, obviously, like you said, a couple of those were off Jermaine Kearse's hands. They weren't necessarily maybe the most accurate or the best touch on those passes, but he did hit the guy in the hands, and so I really don't think you can blame Russell Wilson for those. That said, I think a couple of his other interceptions, namely the one, I believe it was the last interception he threw where Julius Peppers told the guy to, I think it was Clinton Dix to lay down when he probably could have returned it for a touchdown. That that interception was terrible, and that was all on Russell. So, I just remember at that point thinking, oh, the game is over. That there's no way they're coming back from that. And I feel bad about this. Now I tweeted at Tex Western, the guy that runs the Packers blog, like, have fun in the Super Bowl. And then he didn't reply because he must have been like, a little bit superstitious or whatever. And then the Seahawks did end up coming back and winning, and I felt terrible. I actually talked to him about it like a year or two later, and he was like, "Yeah, fuck you." But yeah, no, I just kind of remember he just looked out of sorts. He didn't look like he was seeing the field very well. Kind of one of those games where, like every once in a while Wilson will have a quarter or two or three where he looks really skittish. And I kind of felt like that was the kind of like him in that game. He just didn't look confident. He looked when he dropped back, he looked skittish. And outside of the like fourth quarter comeback, he just really had a terrible game. I think he had like, it'd be interesting to go back and look at the stats. I don't know if you have them in front of you, but he probably had like only like 3 or 4 completions in the first half.
It was that bad, yeah.
Yeah. So it was terrible.
Spike, what would you say is your like the best Russell Wilson game that you can remember?
The best Russell Wilson game I remember. Well, I wanna. When we're talking about failure leading into heroics, when I think about the NFC title game the year before against the 49ers, you mentioned he fumbled the ball like 13 times that year, and he somehow managed to lose none of them. And then on his first drop back of that game, he fumbles, stripped, and then recovered. And then he comes back to lead the team. So he was saving. He somehow harnessed the power of God to prevent any fumbles before that to go to the other team. And then in that moment is absolutely going to give this one away so that it's extra dramatic at the end. But just every single game he played the second half of last season, he was different levels of spectacular. But my favorite Russell Wilson moment of greatness is at the end of, or it's in the middle of that game against the Texans in 2013 when we were down huge. This is before Sherman gets the pick 6 off Schaub, and it's 4th down. He's running. He's going to get tackled before the sticks, and yet he somehow gets to the sticks just through sheer force of just he's going to do that. And that to me was a moment where I was like, oh my God, that just broke my brain because we hadn't had Wilson do something like that where it was okay, he just won us the game. And in the context of that season already, all I was thinking is we can't lose a winnable game because of the Niners and because of home field advantage and everything that's going to come into play. And so it felt like in that moment, he just was oh, I need to get these yards, and I will get them because I am Russell Wilson. And to me, that's the moment that sticks out as his first moment of being not just a really good quarterback, but as a potential supernatural entity.
The another one that almost happened was the game that knocked the Seahawks out of the playoffs last year against the Carolina Panthers. Down 31-0. They score 24 unanswered points in the second half, but fall short. Let's ask you guys this question. Danny, how many catches did Jermaine Kearse have in that game?
In the Carolina game? Let's see here. I think he had 2 touchdowns. I'm going to say 5 catches.
Spike, how many catches did Jermaine Kearse have in the divisional playoffs last year against the Panthers?
Gosh, over under 5 basically. I'm just getting routed. I'm gonna say 6.
He had 11, so you can add your guys' answers together.
11 catches in that?
Point for Spike. He's on the board.
There it is. Let's go. That's my worst answer yet and my first point.
Let's try this one, and I'm kind of curious. Whoever gets the highest sort of on the ranking will get the point because I don't think anyone's going to get it completely right. Spike, and according to Pro Football Reference's numbers, which are not going to be entirely accurate, and I can't be sure how far back they really go. According to Pro Football Reference's numbers, who is the heaviest Seahawk of all time?
Oh my God. Heaviest I have no idea. Oh God. Who was that terrible defensive tackle we drafted like 6 years ago? Or no, more than that now. Like, I'm gonna go. Oh God, I'm gonna go Leroy Hill.
Danny?
I don't know.
Not Leroy Hill. It must be.
Yeah, that was a terrible guess, but
This is terrible for me.
I'm trying to think of.
he handed it to you, I think.
Did I say it was? Oh no.
You said a linebacker that's pretty like wiry, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I'm wildly wrong. I just want to know if that defensive tackle that I'm thinking of, whose name I can't come up with, is on the board.
Dude, I have no idea. I'm gonna go ahead and say Red Bryant because I have.
Sure. Say anybody. You would have won.
That'll beat me. Yeah.
Red Bryant is listed at 326 pounds, and there are maybe 9 guys ahead of him. It's hard for me to count because they're listed for every season. But
who was I think?
Hold on. I don't know exactly who you were thinking of. Maybe some of these will come into play. Above Red Bryant is Ray Willis.
Oh, okay.
From 2005 to 2009. Above him, I don't even know who this guy is. Hebron Fancupo.
Oh, I know about that guy. I remember that guy. He was on the team for like a month.
Yeah, it's BMI 43.5. Ahead of him, Floyd Womack.
Oh.
That pork chop?
Faneca.
Pork chop, yeah.
I almost said pork chop.
Yeah, Paul Faneca, the offensive lineman that was here for a short period of time. Junior Siavi.
Oh, yeah. I remember that guy.
Jerry Wunsch.
I don't remember.
Wunsch. Don't remember Wunsch.
Early 2000s. Stacey Andrews, 342 pounds.
Right tackle. Okay.
Right, brought in just for 2010. And according to this, the heaviest Seahawk of all time, he played for the Seahawks from 1994 to 1999. He never made the Pro Bowl with the Seahawks, but he made the Pro Bowl 3 times after he left the Seahawks. He was the 8th overall pick in the 1994 draft, and if anyone can name them, you'll get a point. Spike, you can jump. It's first person to name. Anybody?
94 to 99?
1994 to 1999, 8th overall pick. He's the heaviest player in Seattle history.
8th over.
Tubbs.
I'm like so rattled by having said Leroy Hill that I don't want to guess, man.
You can't lose a point. You just got to.
No, but I can lose more, man. It's so much more than that.
Okay, I'm going to keep on giving clues until someone gets it right.
Okay, go.
He won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens in 2000.
Trent Dilfer.
Yes, Trent Dilfer is 350 pounds.
He was
a Pro Bowl. He was one of the best players on the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense.
Ray Lewis.
He's a defensive tackle.
Dude, I don't know. What is it?
He went to the Pro Bowl later with the Buffalo Bills.
Leon Lett.
You're just.
the only thing I can picture from D tackles from '94 is like Cortez Kennedy, but that's not right.
Yeah, I mean,
Obvious.
He played next to Cortez Kennedy. He was a great player.
By the way, Cortez Kennedy would have been a much better guess than Leroy Hill.
Yeah,
this guy is he shares the name with a famous beer maker.
Oh, Sam Adams.
Oh my God.
Spike was like, Stella Artois.
Oh, this is terrible.
People are going to be pissed about that. I mean, there's going to be so many people yelling at their phone or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why they're listening to this, though, is to get mad at
because he's pretty well
me. Yeah. No, that was really bad. But I blame my first terrible guess on rattling me. So I feel like I've got a ready-made excuse.
This is an interesting one to me because I was like, I don't think I get this right sometimes, and it's because the season has passed. But I'm going to give Spike a chance here because he's getting blown out. I'm going to give him a chance to get a point here and see. As long as you're not looking, this could be easy. What was this? And I'm not saying that. I'm not giving you this question because like as a joke because it's really easy. I think it's kind of hard sometimes. What was the Seahawks record last year?
Seahawks
That is
record
kind of hard, actually.
was, I want to, 11-5.
Danny?
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
They were 10-6. No,
We both got it wrong.
Oh man.
I think it is kind of hard, dude. I
It
don't
is kind
remember
of.
who won the. I don't know who won like the World Series last year. Like I
Well,
don't
you know that like recently, like today or yesterday, ESPN. I don't know what the article was or what the thing was, but they just flat out said that the Packers won the NFC North last year. The Packers did
Oh.
not win the NFC North last year. The Vikings did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
They
it's easy to
they
forget.
won 10-6. They were 10-6, huh? That's crazy. I actually like completely forgot that.
Yeah, they were 10-6. The Chiefs were 11-5.
Oh, that's who I was thinking of. No.
The Seahawks. Did they start out 4-6 last year?
They were 2-4,
No.
and then I think 4 no, they didn't. Yeah, they might. Yeah, they did win their last 6 games.
Did they?
Didn't they?
I can tell you, no, they were 4-5.
4-5.
Yeah.
They won 5 of their last 6 or 6 of their last 7.
Okay.
Sticking with that. Give
Can
me
I
one
say?
second
Can
here.
I say one little piece of trivia? Because I had referenced it when we were talking about the 2014 NFC Championship game and Russell Wilson's play. In the first half of that game, he was 2 for 9 for 12 yards with the 0.0 QB rating. 3 interceptions in the first half. So anyway, that kind of gives you an idea. That's kind of crazy. Like people sort of, I mean, I know people think, oh, he had a tough game. He had a really shitty game. But going into half of that game, he had 12 yards passing.
Yeah.
Well, and what was the score? We were down, what, 15 at the half?
It was 16-zip.
16. So yeah, it should have been like the Panthers game this year.
Right.
But Mike McCarthy,
Yeah,
hero.
they got a bunch of field goals. They got 3 field goals plus a touchdown by Randall Cobb.
Guys, according to Pro Football Reference, only 3 players in Seahawks history measured in under 5'8". One of them is
Only
not
3?
Russell Wilson, but one of them is Don Bitterlich, a player that was 5'7" in 1976, their first year in the league. Then there's Steve Broussard, who was 5'7", played with them from 95 to 98. The other player that was 5'7" was on the team last year. Danny, can you name him?
Marcus Burley.
Spike. He did not get it right. You can get a point here. 5'7", on the team last year.
Oh shit.
Oh, is it what running backs did we churn?
You're on the right path.
I think I know who it is now.
Because it's not Rawls, but is it Harris?
Yes.
Juwan Harris? Oh my god.
Boom.
I had to just give you that right away, man. I had to push you.
What did I guess again?
You said Marcus Burley.
How tall is he? 5'10", probably. I was way
I
off.
don't know.
I was gonna say that is Justin Forsett is. What is he? 5'8", I guess. 'Cause he was who I first thought of when you were going this direction.
Right.
I was thinking Olindo Mare somehow because he just in my head he looks like he should be like a prototypical David Silva-esque attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
But you know.
I mean, we talked about Thomas Rawls and we talked about sort of his impact, and we know that last year he rushed for 209 yards in a game against the San Francisco 49ers. It was the second most rushing yards by a running back in Seahawks history. Spike, who has the record for the most rushing yards in a game in Seahawks history?
I hope this isn't a trick question. I'm gonna go with Alexander.
Danny?
Oh, God.
Let's see here.
It's you can give the same answer. I'm not saying Spike's wrong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my first instinct was Sean Alexander.
That is correct.
Okay, cool.
How many yards closest, with or without going over?
I'll go. What was it? 220.
My first instinct was 224.
The answer is 266 yards in a game against the Oakland Raiders in 2001.
Damn, that is crazy. What's the
Danny takes
NFL
a
record?
5-2 lead in the trivia contest.
Kenny, can you look up quickly what the NFL record for most in a game is? Did Alexander get it?
No, that's not the NFL record. Adrian Peterson, I think, came very close. I think he might have actually beaten it last year. Or
Corey Dillon have it for a minute?
Corey Dillon was there. It's just taking a minute to load here, which is really good timing.
Didn't Peterson get to like 299 or something?
I think the record was 295 for a bit, but So Adrian Peterson took the record in 2007 when he rushed for 296 yards.
Jeez.
Jamal Lewis had the record before that at 295 yards.
Okay.
But yeah,
224, we were real conservative on that one.
Anybody want to guess the NFL record for rushing touchdowns in a game?
In a game? I don't know. This got to be like 5.
I'm going to go with 6.
Oh.
The NFL record for rushing touchdowns in a game is 5.
Oh, come on!
It's a 3-way tie between 3 players. One of them is Cookie Gilchrist.
Cookie.
Yes,
One
Cookie.
of them is James Stewart. And
Jimmy Stewart, of course.
Spike, I'll give you 2 points if you can tell me who the third is.
I don't want your pity points. But wait, did Jonas Gray get to 5 last year, or did he get stopped at 4?
I'm
gonna go with
terrible guesses are just like really not doing you any favors. Jonas Gray? Come on. He's no Cookie Gilchrist.
I mean, look, I'm assuming it's not Peterson. Otherwise, you wouldn't have put 2 points up for grabs. So I'm going to go with Priest Holmes and just sit on it.
It's Clinton Portis.
The Priest Holmes of that other team.
Exactly.
Priest Holmes is not a bad guess.
No, I don't think
Definitely
it is.
beats the Leroy Hill guess.
I'm literally never going to live that down. Like, even if no one listens to this podcast, because it's the goddamn slowest news week in Seahawks history, I'm never going to forgive myself for that. I'm going to be on my deathbed, and I'm not going to forgive myself for that.
Spike, who holds the record for most rushing yards against the Seahawks?
Frank Gore.
Oh, I was going to say that, too.
Is that your answer, Danny?
That's what I was going to guess.
Okay, so you're both wrong. Just want to get that out of the way. Frank
Gore
Gore did rush for over 200 yards twice against the Seahawks. He has the 3rd and 5th most rushing yards against Seattle. But
Bo Jackson.
Who's that?
Bo Jackson.
That is correct.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was gonna say it's a pretty well-known game or moment and all that kind of stuff. 221 yards in 1987.
And that's the game he trucked the Boz, or?
I'm gonna say yeah. It was his 25th birthday as well.
Happy birthday to Bo Jackson.
Edgerrin James, number 2. In the year 2000, he rushed for 219 yards.
Remember when he was on the Seahawks?
Yeah, no. No. The most rushing yards. Can you guys tell me who rushed for the most yards against the Seahawks last season?
Who rushed for the most yards against the Seahawks? Let's see. That is a tough one. They were really damn good against the run.
Yeah, I was gonna say the name that popped in my head was Jonathan Stewart, but that's a playoff game.
Chris Johnson? I don't know. That's tough.
The Seahawks did not allow anybody to rush for 100 yards on them last season.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
The person that did it is 29 years old. It happened in the second game of the season. Was James Starks.
Really?
20 rushes for 95 yards, no touchdowns. That was the most yards against them.
Starks would have been like my 20th guess, if you hadn't given that clue.
Well, at least you got the schedule down.
Jonathan Stewart broke 100 against us in the playoffs, right?
I don't fucking know, man.
Just try to claw back my dignity, Kenny.
I'll look that up for you.
Todd Gurley rushed for 83 yards against them. There wasn't, not a lot going on. They held Adrian Peterson in the regular season to 8 carries for 18 yards.
Jonathan Stewart rushed 19 times for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns in the playoff loss. There you go, Spike.
I mean, I don't get any points for it, but, when I choke and thank Leroy Hill in my Oscar acceptance speech, I'll also thank Jonathan Stewart. And people will think I mean Jimmy Stewart.
Danny, Spike, only 3 quarterbacks threw multiple touchdowns against the Seahawks last year in the regular season. Can you name them? Let's say we'll go until there's nobody. Let's see who can do it. What? Danny, first chance. Name one of the quarterbacks to throw multiple touchdowns against the Seahawks.
Carson Palmer.
That is correct. He threw 3 touchdowns. He was the only quarterback to throw 3. These other 2 guys threw 2. Spike, can you name one of them?
Aaron Rodgers?
That is correct. Danny, the other one, there's only one left.
Yeah. Let's see here. Ben Roethlisberger.
That is incorrect. Spike.
Really?
Jimmy Clausen.
That is incorrect. Danny.
What the heck?
How did the Steelers have 500 yards and he didn't throw more than 2 touchdowns? That's insane.
Dalton.
That is correct.
There we go.
Of course. The actual answer.
It was pretty good. I mean, the Seahawks, they did not allow touchdowns to Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Castle, Jimmy Clausen twice, Landry Jones. That was a...
I forgot that they got to
Landry
play.
Jones was only in there for a minute. He threw 2 interceptions. Then Colin Kaepernick, Matthew Stafford, and Drew Stanton didn't do anything but their little things. And then Ben Roethlisberger had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in that loss for the Steelers. Yeah, just interesting how much it's hard to remember things that happened just a year ago.
Yeah.
Danny, can you name the person who had the most receiving yards against the Seahawks last year?
I think it was Marcus. What's his frickin' name? The Oregon State receiver.
Yeah.
Marcus.
Spike, if you can name him, you can steal.
Marcus Wheaton? That
We
doesn't
got
feel
it.
fair. That doesn't feel fair.
9 catches for 201 yards.
Yeah, he went off. I remember that.
And then Greg Olsen had 131, Larry Fitzgerald had 130, Randall Cobb had 116, and Michael Floyd had 113. So those are the guys that had over 100 yards.
Man, this defense was good.
So good. It was so good. And it's going to be good again. I know there's no news, but I feel like that's just news is Meebane's gone and Reed is here. It's just going to be good again. I'm so excited.
Danny, can you confirm if the Seahawks defense is going to be good again?
I will agree. I'm going to go ahead and agree. I think they're going to be really good again.
expand on that so you can give me some time to look something up real quick.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think not having Kerry Williams in there is going to be a factor. I think having an experienced guy in their system will just, because you hear Earl talk about how they play on a string, right? Like they're all connected by a string. I think that's going to be a big factor. I think their pass rush could be better. I think if you see Frank Clark kind of improve and kind of get on the field more, I think that could be a big deal. I think Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill are going to be their normal excellent selves. And then, I still don't think that Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas have necessarily reached their peak. So, nor has Bobby Wagner or KJ Wright necessarily. I think overall this is just a really, really good team. It's a veteran team, but they're still real fast and young and hungry. And I just think, in general, they're all kind of still playing together, and I think that's going to be a factor, the experience factor they have together, right? And that's kind of like, we saw kind of how Kerry Williams threw that all out of whack last year. I think having Shed or whoever it is in there that's played in their system, has practiced with them for years, I think that's going to be a big deal.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think having Shed, Lane, and Browner in there from week 1.
Yeah.
I was reading, like, did you see those Raiders scouting reports that leaked onto Reddit from, like, 2010, 2011? And one of them was Cam Chancellor's scouting reports, and it talked about how he would be great in someone else's system because he only has one weakness, and that's his hip rotation. And we saw teams finally exploit that over and over again last year, especially before Lane came back healthy. And when they talk about varying their defensive back looks, it just makes me really excited that they were like, oh, yeah, they finally got that. They finally exploited this one weakness. Well, we're going to throw like 6 new things at that problem this year. Just like little things like that where it's like, you aren't resting. Like, these guys are just going to keep being good, and they haven't aged out of being good yet. And, like, are they going to be good 3 years from now? I don't know, but I'm feeling really excited. I'm just, like, really giddy for this.
We are at the end of this episode of the podcast with one last thing to do. Danny has a 6-2 lead in the points. However, I will give Spike one chance to steal, and it's not gonna be easy. That's why it's gonna be a chance to steal from such a thing. The Seahawks' record for sacks in a single game in the regular season is 4, and 5 guys have done it. The first was Jacob Green in 1986. He had 4. Michael McCrary in 1996. Michael Sinclair also in 1996, and Darryl Tapp in 2007. They all had 4 sacks in a single game. Only once in the tenure of Pete Carroll and his great defense with so many great pass rushers has a player gotten 4 sacks in a single game. Spike, if you want to win the game, you got to tell me the player, the team he did it against, and the game in which he accomplished 4 sacks.
I don't remember. Let me. I want to say it was. Man. I want to say it was Chris Clemens against the Panthers, Cam Newton in 2013, but that's probably wrong.
The player was Chris Clemens.
Come on, let's do this thing.
The team was the Packers.
Oh, that's right. It was the year also 2013.
No, this was the Fail Mary game in 2012 when they sacked Aaron Rodgers.
Fail Mary. Oh.
It was gettable, but you just failed and you just missed out. And Danny, you are the winner of the second annual, whatever this is called.
Yay!
But a valiant effort at the end there by Spike, put in quotes, Leroy Hill is the fastest player in Seahawks history, Friedman.
Oh my God!
I should never forget. It's like a Leroy Jenkins moment without the triumph. Just the failure.
But yeah, but Spike, thank you for playing and thank you for joining us on this this very long lull of NFL news. Where can people find you on online?
I'm on Twitter at Spike Friedman. I'm blogging places, including The Stranger and other places that I just signed contracts that I'm not supposed to say that I'm a writer for them. So I don't know how to say that.
Soon to
So
be.
follow me on Twitter.
Sounds good. Danny, any parting thoughts?
There's another plane above Spike's head, apparently. No, I'm just looking forward to something happening in the NFL. That's about it. And you can also follow me on my new Twitter account, Danny B. Kelly.
Yes, that's right. Follow Danny on his new Twitter account at Danny B. Kelly. And
The official field goals account is now the official field goals account.
right.
So follow my personal account where I will undoubtedly talk about things that are weird and stupid.
Any interesting revelations about new followers or people that followed you from one account to the other in these last few days? It's a unique experience that a lot of people don't get to really have.
Yeah, I'm keeping a spreadsheet of everyone who's not following me at the new account, and I hold grudges and I don't let them go. Just keep that in mind.
Fair. I think that's very fair. But yeah, follow on Twitter at Danny B. Kelly, at Spike Friedman, at Kenneth Arthur S, at Field Goals. Subscribe to us on iTunes for the future episodes of this podcast, whatever it may be. And we've got other things going on. If you want to contribute, just check out the post on fieldgoals.com, and there'll be some news coming up. But thanks for listening, and this has been another episode. So keep it real in the field. Goals.